Success story took a tragic turn this morning. Len Bias, the Maryland University basketball star on his way to becoming a world champion Boston Celtic, died of an apparent heart attack today at Leland Memorial Hospital in Prince George's County. Dave Statter is at the College Park campus of the University of Maryland with this live update.
Andrea, this is Washington Hall. This is where Len Bias collapsed early this morning in this dormitory here on the University of Maryland campus. He was talking to some friends early this morning when he collapsed. Doctors say he died of a heart attack, cardiopulmonary arrest, but what that means or what caused that heart attack, we don't know. And at this point, we don't know what the real cause of death for this 22-year-old rising star of the Maryland basketball team and eventually the Boston Celtics. Bias was rushed to Leland Hospital early this morning by ambulance. Following him to the hospital were friends and relatives and fellow basketball players from the University of Maryland campus. A lot of people came from the nearby Adelphi community. Bias went to Northwestern High School not far from the hospital. Many of his friends showed up at the hospital, obviously very upset over this news and this latest turn and the end of this tragic career for the University of Maryland basketball star.
The NuChannel Sports Podcast presents We Talk, and on this edition of We Talk, we are going to be talking about one Len Bias. If you listen to us on YouTube, please subscribe. Listen to us on Instagram, please follow us. But let's get right into it. Len Bias, who attended the University of Maryland, tragically passed away from a cocaine overdose. He died June 19th of 1986 at the age of 22 from cardiac arrhythmia induced by the cocaine overdose. Just 2 days before that, he was drafted by the Boston Celtics. He was a phenomenal player at the University of Maryland. Some compared him to Michael Jordan. Some said he'd be better than Michael Jordan. He played 4 seasons over there in Maryland, but a tragic, tragic death. I remember watching the 30 for 30 on Len Bias, an excellent documentary, and that's how I first heard about Len Bias and his tragic story. He passed away too soon. Because of his death, it also created a
Len Bias Law, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986.
Yes. And so a lot of things went into play as far as the death of Len Bias. He passed away way too young at the age of 22.
That's crazy. The fact that, Ronald Reagan signed this bill into law, isn't it said by a particular community that he's the one that distributed these products to our community?
Right.
Yeah, so we should be blaming this guy for the situation, man. Former President Ronald Reagan. Rest in peace.
He was selected overall by the Boston Celtics. I thought he was Larry Bird was there. Kevin McHale was there. I mean, he was gonna wreck shop in the NBA for sure. This is a tragic story. It was very, very interesting, very, very engaging. As soon as he got drafted, I think 2 days later, he decided to go to Washington. Him and a couple of friends got together, and that's where everything happened. And I guess he just couldn't handle it, man. He had too much, and he just, died of the overdose. I don't know if you guys ever heard the tape recording where his friend was there. He was under the influence, basically, but he sounded like he was out of it. He was calling 911 to try to get Len Bias some help. And it's a very gut-wrenching thing to listen to. Every time I see it or hear about it, it makes me very, 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 very sad.
Yeah, sad story. You can't help but think about what if, right? That's what the whole thing about Len Bias is the what if. If he went to play with the Celtics, and you got to think about the players that they had there, he would have had an opportunity to grow and become a superstar in the league a lot quicker than Michael Jordan would, right? It's a big what if, but if he stayed alive, Jordan would still be great, obviously, but maybe the Celtics run doesn't end so quickly. And that's what makes it suck even more, because he had the skill and the athleticism to challenge a Jordan. And you never know. Jordan could have had a contemporary with him battling him. It would have made the NBA a little more interesting.
Yeah, the difference there, too, would have been Len Bias would have been with already a team that was established, right? So coming in, he would already had that chemistry with the Boston Celtics, as opposed to what Michael Jordan had. He had to come there and build the Chicago Bulls. Mm-hmm. So when Len Bias would have got there, he already been with this great team, this great dynasty already, and that would have just added to his name. So yeah, I think he would have got off to a head start, if you want to call it that, over what Michael Jordan could do. And based on what I saw, of course I didn't watch him growing up, but based on the highlights that I saw of him in Maryland, the guy had great athleticism. He could shoot the ball pretty well also for his size. Dude, the dude was good. He was really, really, really good. And based on what I just said about him coming into Boston and having that team already established, he would have been up and running already and out of the gates, a pretty elite player.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You come into an already established system and, probably come in as, I don't know if he would have been a starter for that Celtics team, but he would have, definitely come in and played a pivotal role for those guys. I mean, you're talking about a guy that had a really successful career. Consensus first team All-American in 86. Once again, second team All-American in 1985, two-time ACC Player of the Year, 85 and 86. ACC Athlete of the Year, as well as a two-time first-team All-ACC in 85 and 86. So, the guy had a really successful career. It just kind of boggles my mind, and you never expect things like this to happen. To have an athlete, drafted. The guy was drafted by the Celtics, and then to die. That's crazy. And imagine the investment. Now, I don't know if the Celtics traded or lost picks or whatever, but I think that they had a roster spot open for this guy to come in. This guy was going to, play a very important role for this organization, and to leave this world in that manner. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if this is something that I don't know if cocaine is a drug that he frequently used, or maybe he was just celebrating and maybe just overdid it. I don't know. But
based on the documentary, I think it was something that he was not really used to.
Okay.
That's why I think it might have been actually his first time using the drug. Right. I think that's what I remember from the documentary. I could look into it more, but I think that's what happened with him there.
Wow. May you rest in peace. And to bring up a point, that you made, they signed into law the Len Bias Act. So what that pretty much does is, enables mandatory 20-year sentence, or a minimum of 20-year sentence for drug-related crimes. Now, I don't know if that's a national thing or it was just for that area, but so that is something, his death was influenced by that. Interestingly enough, his brother also passed away. Was shot and killed.
Shooting.
Exactly.
Yes.
So 5 years afterwards. So they're buried next to each other. So because of those things, his parents are now motivational speakers. So his mother speaks for anti-drugs, and then his father, or their father, speaks about gun violence.
Right.
As motivational speakers. So, man.
All right. So that's the story. We talk Len Bias. Please hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram. Check out our podcast, NuChannel Sports Podcast, on any major podcast platform. Check out our website, NuChannelSports.net. Until next time, this has been Onye, joined by Big Low and Chris.